Good morning. I'm Martin Wenzel. Welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm going to try not to talk too much right now. It's a little early and got a few people sleeping, but welcome in. Flying the last leg of the schedule on Pilot's Life 2 here for SkyWest. And we're in United Express. I wasn't able to finish the flight up yesterday, but we're going to be flying from Chicago over to Fort Dodge, Iowa. Let's see if I can pull up Pilot's Life, just give you a look at what I have for a schedule here. Yes. Alright, so you can see there's the schedule. There's our last one. SkyWest 5135, Chicago to Fort Dodge. Takeoff time about 3:19 in the afternoon, 281 miles, and seeing it's a CRJ2 in real life, but we're using the CRJ7. Go to the flight page, and there's the flight. Nice little short one. First flight of this trip was Chicago to Cedar Rapids. We did Cedar Rapids up to Minneapolis, then Minneapolis down to South Bend, then South Bend back to Chicago, and now we're headed out to Fort Dodge. After this flight, we'll kind of take a look at how to pick a new schedule and hopefully get a good one. Hopefully one that starts out of Fort Dodge, or maybe my pilot deadheaded back to my base here in Chicago. So, yeah, that's what we're doing for the flight. Oh. I'm going to get things started. I'm not going to talk a ton right now because it is early. But if we're in the CRJ7 from Aerosoft to Bombardier CRJ700 from Aerosoft. United Express SkyWest Flight 5135. So I hope you enjoy it.
boarding requested. Do you want to board crew? Passengers bus is coming. Passengers boarding starting.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback. Departure checks completed. Bypass pin inserted. Locking gear. Release parking brakes. Release parking brakes. Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention as we display the safety features and procedures of the aircraft in case of an emergency. During an emergency, please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened and your seats in the upright position. In case of a drop in cabin pressure, breathing masks
Set parking brake.
ceiling and should be placed over your head. If there is smoke in the cabin during the evacuation of the aircraft, the walkway emergency lights will display to the exit.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
And here. In case of an extreme emergency landing, you will be instructed to get into the brace position, which is executed by placing your head between your knees with your hands over your
Cockpit to
head.
ground. We have a good
We would
engine
also like
start.
to remind
You
you
can
that you should
disconnect.
turn off all electric. We thank you for paying attention during this brief presentation.
Unlocking gear. Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now serving sandwiches.
Hey, Celestial Gamer, welcome in. Yeah, we're starting to get, I think I can start talking a little bit. I'm not going to turn the camera on. I just don't have it set up. But, yeah. Definitely. Yeah, it's a fun game. I've learned a lot. I mean, always learning something new in it. And then learning stuff in the, watching real world flights, videos from the real life flight decks, learning things, and applying them in the sim. I think it always, there's always a level of satisfaction when you do that. Like when you're actually doing something the way the pros are actually doing it, and understanding some of the concepts. What I'm doing right now is I've kind of just been on a kick flying the CRJs, Bombardier, I have to say it correctly, Bombardier CRJ 700 from Aerosoft. I've been kind of on a kick flying these. You tend to get shorter flights with the CRJs because it's the regional, and I don't feel it like 100% necessary to stream every flight I do. Like when I'm doing my world tour, I want to stream all those flights, and they kind of go in order. With what I'm doing now is like I got a pilot's life, which is basically a career mode for flight simulator. Right here, it's tracking the flight right now, and after this flight, we're gonna have to get a new schedule. This is the last leg of the trip. Here, going out to Fort Dodge, Iowa. What's nice about doing this is you get paid and you get experience points and all that cool stuff, but also you just get a schedule set for you, and so you're not struggling. Okay, I want to fly, SkyWest Airlines, or I want to fly whatever it is, and kind of having to search and try to figure out. It's like, okay, what flight do I want to do? I would never think of flying a flight from Chicago to Fort Dodge. So, right, we're kind of speeding along here, looking at this. Where do I want to be? Performance, I think. VNAV. Set up. We're looking at a target speed of 0.74 knots, or 0.74 Mach. Slow that down a little bit. CRJ, we have a manual thrust, so we gotta kind of adjust that. There we go. I'm on PC. I get confused all the time now with a lot of the news coming out, because it's like, oh, they're bringing, this plane's coming out now finally. I'm like, but the PMDG planes I think are coming to Xbox soon, and I have people ask me, oh, I have to pay for liveries. I'm thinking, well, you don't have to pay for paint jobs for your planes. You can get them free on flightsim.to, but maybe when you're on Xbox you do. I don't know. But yeah, I'm totally PC. Last time I had an Xbox was like 10 years ago. Maybe in the future, if I have a little bit more money, I'll probably buy a PlayStation, because I really want to play MLB The Show, which is exclusive to PlayStation. So that'd be kind of fun to play with my son once he gets to that age. Play it on our big, massive 4K screen. Alright, so we're at our cruise, Mach 0.74. We just got our RNAV approach runway 24 for Fort Dodge. Vectors in. Right. So we're just crossing, or we did cross the Mississippi back there. You can see it behind us. kind of tell you're near the Mississippi when you get this kind of broken up, you know, hills and valleys and stuff. Very, very typical of western Illinois, eastern Iowa, southwestern Wisconsin, especially. Alright, we're going to descend. Descend a little bit. Vertical speed. We're flying over Iowa right now. Kind of a strange descent. I did pick the wrong transition. That wasn't what I wanted. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that because my taxi lines, they kind of look messed up. I'm gonna have to see if they, you know, if there's an update or something, because I've noticed that for a long time that they just are not loading in properly. But I do think I have a mod for those. I don't know why it's not putting that next waypoint in there. Yeah, hopefully they actually have us descend, get to Oxta. Because once we do get to Oxta, we need to be at the chart 3,000 feet for Oxta. We'll have 11 minutes to get to Iana. Nice to start descending. Oh, that's right. Oxta's in there twice. Oh, we never thought that's what's going on. I never executed. You always gotta make sure you hit that execute button. That's why. Okay, so now we're going direct Oxta, direct intercept. You see, it wants us to descend 2,000 feet, like right now. There we go. Seatbelt signs on for descent. Hey Mika, happy Easter. Right there off on our left, that was Cedar Rapids, where we started the day yesterday. No, started the day in Minneapolis, but a couple days ago I was in Cedar Rapids. Flew Chicago to Cedar Rapids, and then Cedar Rapids up to Minneapolis. Oh, that's our nice airport there. We're on our way to Fort Dodge, Iowa. SkyWest Airlines, United Express. Last flight of this trip in A Pilot's Life, Chapter 2. We need after this flight, select a new schedule. I don't know if we'll do another flight or not. I don't know what I wanted to say. Happy Hell. Wouldn't be Hanukkah. Hanukkah's around December. That plane is going on a crazy path right there. Pascha. I think Pascha is a lot of countries or a lot of languages. Easter is translated as Pascha, which is, you know, comes from the Passover. Easter, contrary to popular belief, every Easter you start seeing this again. The people are like, "Oh, Easter is a pagan holiday," and perhaps at one point, you know, Easter, because I think it comes from Aestra or whatever that word. And Mika, this is your part of the world. You know, when the Germans, you know, adopted Christianity, when they converted and became Christians, they started celebrating, you know, Easter. They named it Easter because that's the month that they did that celebration for the resurrection of Jesus. And you know, you get your very conservative Baptists and stuff in America, or you get your atheists on the other side who always want to poke and go, "Oh, look, you're celebrating a pagan holiday or whatever." And it's like, well, even if Easter was originally at some point the name of a pagan god, doesn't really. That's not why it was named that. It was just named that because that's when it was celebrated. It was that was the name of the month, and it kind of stuck. But if you look at a lot of other languages, it's actually Pascha, like Paschal, you know, or like Passover, which is when, you know, all those events happened, you know, for a hugely significant reason. If you subscribe to the belief of the whole Bible, including the Old Testament, which is the Hebrew Scriptures, pointing to Jesus and his death and resurrection and all that. You know, and the Passover being one of those major signs, you know, prophetic signs. Alright, so we are got Waterloo on our right. Waterloo, Iowa. I've driven through Waterloo, Iowa a number of times. Yeah, I believe it's on, I think it's just State Highway 27 that runs through, if I'm remembering right. Yeah. which is called, it's this highway that runs through here along, basically from, I can't remember where it starts, but it kind of runs down through Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, and then eventually along the Mississippi River all the way down to St. Louis, and it might even go beyond St. Louis, but it's called the Avenue of Saints because I think it runs between St. Louis and it might go all the way up to St. Paul eventually. And there are a number of other saint cities along the route. So. And by nature of where it is within Iowa, it's not an interstate. There's no real interstates. There's just no real good way to get down between those 2 points unless you go over 50, 60, 70 miles one direction or the other to get to an interstate. So it's kind of a divided highway, a lot of it at this point. But it does still end up winding directly through some towns, like I believe it goes directly through Waterloo. There's a few stoplights, Cedar Rapids. We're getting a little weather. If I look at the radar, we definitely do have some some weather in the area. Pull up the MEDAR for Fort Dodge is Kilo Foxtrot Oscar Delta, Fort Dodge Regional Airport. Full MEDAR and TAF. Let's see, we're going to be going landing runway 24. Originally they had us landing runway 12, which is a shorter runway, and we would have had massive crosswinds. Well, not massive, but we got a 4-knot wind. We would have had a 4-knot crosswind. Instead, we're going to have just a slight coming from our left quarter up here. Not as big a deal. And we have a longer runway to boot. Runway 24, VFR at 9.4 degrees Celsius and clear 4-knot wind coming in 220 degrees. We're going to be landing about 240 degrees or so. So that's exactly what you want. Our pressure is 30.22 inches mercury. We don't have any ceiling. Visibility is unlimited. So, kind of interesting because I do see a bunch of clouds, and on Volanta I can see the radar. Might just be missing it. Might be coming this way. I don't know which way it's going. If it's going from the south or to the north. South-north or north-south. Des Moines, the capital, is going to be a little bit over there. Actually, might be... Oh, no, it's not going to be under us. Charlie Indio Delta is Cedar Rapids. I think if... No, never mind. Got our pressure in. Alright, in-range checklist. Pressurization is set at 1160 right there. Fuel checked 2485. We're going fuel. Altimeter set 30.24. Actually 30.22. We'll just adjust that. ECAS as required. Radar. I'm gonna switch this. I see that. Traffic. Alright, hopefully we get where we need to be. Landing data not yet set. Go into performance. That. Alright, approach briefing. We're coming into Oxta. At Oxta we need to be at 3,000 feet. Then we're going to descend to 2,800 feet on course 243. And then we'll have our probably a 3 degree, yeah, it looks like glide path of 3 degrees into runway 24. Our grade in landing, decision height, go right here. I'm going to go with do the LNAV 1560. Warning for. We got ice. Typically you want that on before you hit the clouds and stuff. Alright, so minimum is gonna be 1560. Away the chart. Right down here. Altitude. Alright, so as you can see, the MEDAR data is a little bit out of date. Compared to the weather in Flight Simulator and in the MEDAR data. The MEDAR data is 49 minutes old. And then the weather in Flight Simulator typically is a little bit behind as well. So we've got a little icing. I've been doing some decent landings lately. Last one wasn't that great. The one in the Cedar Rapids wasn't great either, but the one going into Cedar Rapids was like almost 500, but that was Elishua sitting on my lap freaking out, so made it a little hard focus. Pull back on that throttle. But yeah, mostly they've been sub 200, except for going into Chicago, it was a little higher, but I think we had some winds as well. Now, the key thing that what we did there when we had that ice detection, then we turned on the anti-ice, Anti-ice typically is not going to de-ice, so once you have ice, you're kind of in trouble in reality. You want to turn anti-ice. Anti-ice prevents ice. It's not going to de-ice. So you want to be on top of that before you get to the point where you have ice detected. Right. Probably going to get dinged for not having our landing lights on. 10,000. Trying to go for a perfect score here in a pilot's life. Have one. Most of my flights have been 97s because I always miss one thing or another on the score sheet. I think the last one was 96.5 because I think the taxi light wasn't on. Not sure how we got half point, I'm not sure. Alright, 1,600 feet per minute. Just stay where we're at, that way you just get down. Because really we need to be at 3,000 feet at Oxta. Not sure why the flight computer has 4,700, and I'm not sure how to change that successfully. Haven't been able to do it yet. And down 200 knots. So I wouldn't say this is completely clear, but it's not as bad as that little little rain pattern we went through. Okay, before landing checklist. Flight attendant advise passenger signs on. Thrust reverser armed. Landing gear down. Flaps as required. Alright, gotta wait on those until we get to our we make this final turn. Once we hit Oxta, we'll increase our speed pretty quickly. We'll get down to 160, fly out to 20 degrees laps. I know a lot of people think Iowa's probably pretty flat. It actually isn't. It's actually pretty hilly. It's actually pretty beautiful. My wife loves going through Iowa when we would drive through Iowa because she kind of likes the rolling hills and being able to see so far. But with a little bit of rolling hills as opposed to Illinois, you get to certain areas of Illinois. Illinois is flat and boring. Iowa, it's relatively flat, but it's actually got quite a few hills and rivers and stuff where you get some elevation changes. And she comes from a place where there's mountains all around, kinda, which I kind of like, being different than where we live here in Wisconsin. We don't have a ton of mountains at all. Alright, once we get to 3,000, we should be able to bleed off a bunch of this speed. Up the GPS. Don't need to see that right now since we're basically on top of the airport. I don't have it in sight yet. Over there. Okay, flaps 8 degrees, 20 degrees. Put a little bit of thrust in. Gonna get a visual on the airport street right in front of us, the runway. Okay, VREF is 132, plus 5, we'll go 137. At Puzchi, we need to be at 2800, we're already at 2800. Any gear down. Speed brake. Help. Any lights on? We'll turn on the recognition lights. Oh, wait on that until we have our clearance to land. That way we know we have our clearance. Good visual reminder for us. Also turning that light on lets them, turning one of your landing lights on, whichever one it is. You kind of want to have some of your landing lights on under 10,000. But you also want to be able to flip on some lights as a reminder to yourself that you got runway clearance and that ATC can tell that you've gotten the message. Why we're bobbing a little high here. Alright, didn't really do a go-around briefing here. Go-around, we're climbing 3,000 feet and then direct to Gekchi waypoint. Okay, autopilot disconnected. Definitely feeling some wind. Around. Yeah, it's crazy with this new realistic turbulence. You see how it bounces around and you'll kind of start floating up and then suddenly you'll just dive again. You'll just lose that air on your wing. Constantly monitoring the our speed. Don't want to land too fast because then we're fighting, swerving around on the trying to get brakes. Happy lights to help. We're getting pushed a little to the right because we got a little bit of a wind coming from the left. Not too bad. And keep watching that speed, feathering the throttle. Otherwise you lose it and then suddenly you're dumping yourself in the field right in front of the... Wait, lights aren't changing.
300.
Hi.
Sync rate. 200. Sync rate.
Okay.
Sync rate. 100. 50. 40. 30.
20. 10.
Oh, get down. Big float on that landing. And didn't get any cheers, but we didn't get any screams either, so probably a nice firm one there. At a certain point, you kind of sometimes just got to get it in there. And the important thing in reality, in real life, the important thing is getting on the center line. That's probably my best center line landing ever. You know, that's what they're looking for, because they don't have landing rate monitors or anything. Obviously, you don't want to land. You don't want to crater your plane, but if you got to put it down firm, it's better than floating and going off the end of the runway. Alright, landing lights off. Strobe light can come off. Take a stop here so I can...
Remain seated until the aircraft has come to a complete stop.
Now we can continue. Got the airport chart, some parking. Alright, we're going to take this taxiway all the way up Bravo, the terminal area over there. Find a spot to park. See what I got for a landing rate. Negative 214 according to the landing rate monitor. Firm, but that's anywhere between, you know, 150 and 250 is not bad. I think under 200 is good. If you're lighter than 150 or something, depending on the plane, of course, but in a, you know, in a jet, if you're going less than 150, you're probably a little, you're trying to butter it a little too much, and you probably floated. And we floated even quite a bit on the landing. Well, this is actually a pretty cool place, because just this little taxiway, we're kind of in the landing at Iowa Airport is kind of fun. Kind of in the middle of a farm field, it feels like. Alright, let's get our... Alright, after landing, checklist, APU. Starting, transponder, radar off, laps 0, lights and strobes off except for our taxi, probes off, and bleeds are set. Yeah, see, like, this is an airport where I would have had it. Of course, I could set up these schedules myself and go and look and see what flights, but when you kind of aren't required by a set schedule, someone else is set, like a program or someone else is setting, you're kind of like, do I really want to fly to Fort Dodge or wherever? But kind of nice to be able to ever get. I haven't got any ground contact. Sometimes just won't get any. Actually, I don't think this is. Oh, this is a runway. That was the runway they wanted us. If we had gone on that runway, we first of all had the crosswind. We also probably would have overshot the runway with our. I just didn't. Never got those PAPI lights to get our 2 red on the PAPIs. Quite the change from flying out of Minneapolis or Chicago, where, especially Chicago, a lot of taxiing did. Minneapolis, I think we actually taxi a lot more in Minneapolis, distance-wise. This airport, nice and easy. Bravo all the way in. We got a few, like, little corporate jets. I can get GSX to tell me where I'm supposed to be. 0 suitable parkings. Look like we really have anywhere park. Park right up here, as good as any. Problem is, like, can GSX then handle the plane? Well, if it can't, we'll just act as if it did. I mean, this is gotta park closer to the terminal, I would think, not just out in the... I don't know where you would park. I guess I could look and... This is kind of like the fuel area. Good as place as any. There's no lines, unfortunately, for us to go off of. Alright, we'll turn that radio down. Parking brake set. Electric set. We have the APU. Thrust levers into the shutoff position. Stop for the engine. The engine's coming down. Come on, don't do this to me. Oh, are you kidding me, Flight Simulator? Okay, well, luckily the flight is finished for the most part. Hopefully it doesn't affect their score. But yeah. So we just got a blank screen there. Nice. Well, let's pop up something to look at. Pilot's life. There it is. Flight Simulator. That's my first crash since I've been flying the CRJs lately. So we're still getting the crashes. Hopefully we don't get one mid-flight. That is so frustrating. Not sure what the problem is. But yeah, let's look at the flight. Right here we have flight report. The passed everything except for the taxi light. Why taxi light off? Why? I'm still confused with that because we turned the taxi light on. We had the taxi light and we didn't even turn it off when we got into the gate or anything. So lost a point for that. Not sure what that's going off of. You see landing details. It looked like, yeah, by the time we landed, we came in this way. You can see how far down the runway we landed at. That's our touchdown point. Should have been right in there. I knew when we were going over the runway, I'm like, we got to get down. For some reason, it doesn't have our landing rate. The landing rate on... Yeah, it's at -240. 5 out of 5. You know, again, 214 is nice. Anything over probably 300 is... You're going to get like an average score. Yeah, there's like 2. Close that. We just submit the flight. All right. And gonna see what's going on, but this might be see what the next flight looks like. But probably be it for stream today, or at least right now, because we got a few things we got to do. So I got my last week of income, I think. Looks like. As a result of your last week flights, your bank account has been credited $94.94. That is not very good. Of course, in real life, you're flying more than a couple hours a week. And also in real life, the hourly salary for SkyWest is about $90 an hour now per first officer. We'll see if that goes up once I get to first officer, but I doubt it'll go to 90 because, I don't know, it's weird. So you can see the flights we've done with SkyWest this trip: Chicago, Cedar Rapids, Minneapolis, South Bend, Chicago, back out to Fort Dodge. So let's click on schedule. Now we need to find a new schedule. Now this is the one I would like. What they need is, I was talking about this on another one, but you can kind of check your lengths, pick your lengths, schedule type. Now, the type of schedule I would want, which is kind of the realistic schedule, especially for regionals, is typically you're going from your hub, from your base, and then you're building out a plan, right? You're going, so for example, if our base is Chicago, we're going Chicago. Basically what we did on this trip, Chicago, Cedar Rapids, Minneapolis, South Bend, Chicago would be a typical trip, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how many days it's covering. It would definitely be longer than that because you're probably out 3 or 4 days. And you might come back to your base during a trip and maybe you get lucky and you can stay at home one night in the middle of the trip. But the problem with this is if we do round trips from hubs, is it typically, so we're going to do, when I get generated, it gives me, you can see what this does here. It always goes Chicago, South Bend back to Chicago. Chicago, White Plains to Chicago. Chicago, Allentown to Chicago. That's not really what they need one more option because they should have the hub option, the base option, but then have like this continued trips because the problem with random trips, actually, oh no, yeah, you can only pick one. Problem with random trips is, okay, Dallas Fort Worth to Springfield, Denver to Durango, Reading. Now this is just random, which is not what I want either. I want those continued trips. So we're going to do this random continued trip to see if we can get a decent trip out here. I'm just going to keep... It was actually not too bad. But it's kind of more based in the Dallas-Fort Worth. Again, now what this random continued trips, it'd be nice if you could pick a hub because this is what I want, but I don't want to be out of Dallas-Fort Worth. See if we can get a Chicago one. So you kind of have to play with it. Luckily, they allow you to just regenerate and find the... Yeah, like this is a nice one. Just a nice short. So I'm going to have to suggest this. That's like you need to do... you're able to pick your initial... What I'm looking for is I just want to at least get a start in Chicago. I mean, I suppose if it doesn't actually end in Chicago, it just might not be possible. You see, yeah, this ends in Fort Dodge again. Might just have to pick a, and I guess it'll let us go. I think just realistically, it would be really cool if they would have that, where you could have your hub. Because that's how your trips usually work. You usually start your trip at your base. You don't have to go to a different base from where you're based to start. There we go. Okay. So this doesn't end where I'd like it to, which would be back in Chicago. But it's going to take us all the way out to Los Angeles. So that's going to actually be a pretty cool run here. Let's see what we got. We got Chicago to Avoca, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton International Airport. So that'll be kind of cool going out that direction. These are actually a little bit longer flights as well. You can obviously change these to shorter hauls. I'm not sure if these would be medium. They might be. Actually are decent length flights. Not a problem. We'll just do one flight. Do flights when we have time. Then we go Scranton back to Chicago. So this is kind of a round trip thing. Not a big deal. That happens. Chicago then out to Little Rock. Then to Houston. Out to Aspen. LA. Sacramento. San Francisco. And then Boise. Finishing up in Los Angeles. That's actually a pretty cool trip. Looks a lot of the flights are early flights too, so we'll get a lot of day flights in. Fortunately, I don't think I'd be able to fit this one in right now. I got rid of that schedule. This is a nice schedule, just one flight. Okay, so I think short haul is going to be under 500 miles. So I'm going to kind of try to stick with that because then, you know, the flights are about, you know, an hour and a half. That's kind of what I want with these right now. These starting out. Okay, there we go. So it looks like we got the that actually is a good one. Start in Chicago, out to Wilkes-Barre back to Chicago, Chicago to Chattanooga, back to Chicago. So we're gonna, this one's a little bit Chicago heavy, but then we're going to Appleton, Detroit, Montreal, Detroit, and then White Plains back to Detroit. So it's kind of like Chicago Detroit thing going on. Maybe I don't have to be so strict about it. I don't know. Maybe I kind of want to go out this, go to. Well, let's grab this one. Oh no, see, this is over 500 too. So I wonder what medium haul ends up. This one goes down to Mexico. Yeah, it's not the most realistic thing to just have a random start, but I also don't want to do the hubs back and forth, back and forth. I want to do kind of a continued trip. Or it'd be cool. I think there's a bunch of things they could do, like where you say, hey, this is where I want to start, and then you generate a trip from that. Start and end, I think, is what they need to add. That would make it really nice and realistic. I'm kind of kicking myself for not accepting that one trip. Started. Went out to the Southwest, and I like flying the Southwest. Alright, this is a Minneapolis centered one, it looks like. Denver. Alright, this one starts in Chicago, ends in Atlanta. Let's see. Right. So Chicago, Syracuse, Detroit, Albany, Detroit, Norfolk, Detroit, Greenville, Detroit, and Harrisburg, Atlanta. Now I'm getting too picky, I think. I think we just have to take it. We just have to. Wish flights weren't so long, because I kind of like having the hour flights for the. I'm gonna keep looking. Yeah, I'm starting to run into a lot of just you know, it's like kind of round trips you're giving me now. Just Detroit, Detroit, Detroit. Yeah, it's like, oh, you don't want random trips? Fine. Like I said, it's like I wish they just had a little bit more options. Do round trips from the hubs. Let's see what I can get. Let's see if yeah, what they need to do is they need to combine these two. Round trips from hubs and random trips. You know, basically random continued trips is what it should be. I know, I'm killing myself over this, but I will find one here that I like. Palm Spring. Right, the fascinating work of trying to find a schedule that I like. All right, well, I know it's fascinating. So I think I'll end the stream for now, and then if I'm able to fly a little bit more, we'll be coming back up. So just pay attention over on YouTube and Twitch, and I'll try to stream these. Sometimes it'll be a full-on stream with me, like at least with this stuff, with the world tour flights. I'll try to do those flights with the camera, mic, and everything going, kind of at the usual time, early morning. But if I'm doing these, whenever I do a flight like this, I'll try to stream it, and it'll be up so you can watch the flight. I might talk, might not, might have the camera on, might not. So, but yeah, thanks for stopping in. And once I get a schedule and stuff, I'll probably post. I'll have a flight at least prepared once I know what I'm doing. All right. So thanks for coming along, and I'll see you next time.